Cascade. So next we'll talk about the Cascade. This is how businesses unfold within a society. The way that this can all start is simply start one business. And this is what we ended up doing, is starting a woodworking business and make a product. In that same town, another business gets started and they start a product. The woodworking sells their products in local shops and the fabric company sells products in other local shops. At this point, there is no actual business connection. There's only an intended connection. There's a group of people in the same town who are on the same Zoom calls. They intend to connect these two businesses. So that group of people operating two separate businesses say, you know what, let's make an accessory for one of the woodworking businesses. Now we have a direct business connection. Keep going. We have the same group of, or we have, this is happening and there are people, more people in town that say, look, I'm getting this bridge thing. I'm really liking it and I'm liking what you guys are doing. Can I help by starting a gardening network in town? Terrific. No problem. Let's do that. Again, this gardening business is its own business, not connected at all to the other businesses, except that this group of people in the same location intend to connect by using the bridge. So they get that business up and running and then they say, okay, let's connect. Fabric company, can you make baskets to reduce we're going to harvest, can you reduce our costs so we don't have to go buy baskets? And the fabric company says, yes, we'll help you reduce your costs, make your business better. And at the same time, we know how our sales, we have more predictable sales and we're getting promotion out in the business, out in the world because you're using our baskets. So now we have an actual connection. And we make another connection. Woodworking business, can you make the garden boxes for this, et cetera, et cetera. So, and it continues on. So the beginning of these businesses are independent, solidly researched businesses on their own. They have committed execution. They're a successful project independently on their own before they ever connect. So each of these three businesses can compete in a capitalist environment on their own. The only difference is they're actually practicing the Aikido economics. So they're competing in a capitalist environment and successful, but they're using Aikido economics. We could call these businesses first phase businesses. The purpose of them is very, very simple. Simply initiate or start practicing aspects of the bridge. Start practicing Aikido economics, work out your community systems, start building, get some successes under your belt, somehow enhance the contributors' lives, because we don't want to rely on volunteerism forever, and work out some of your community and wakey systems, right? These are environments, these are businesses that you can practice these things. Some of the features of these first businesses are they're simple and there are a few moving parts. They have a very short supply chain. They're a relatively quick financial turnover. And they are self-sustaining on their own, because if this woodworking business tanks, we don't want the connection so interdependent at this point that it takes the other two businesses with them. They're all self-sustaining on their own. Once those systems are worked out in the community, we can start what we might call a second phase set of businesses. In this case, I chose a share shack repair layer. That seemed like it might fit. And so what might happen in this scenario is the share shack repair layer starts up and says, look, we could start this up and we can sharpen your saw blades. Perfect. That reduces the cost of the woodworking business and it gets a little bit of promotion and guaranteed sales for the second phase business. And the share shack can fix the sewing machines, and maybe they lend out gardening tools so that not every location at this gardening network has to have their own tools. They can simply borrow the tools. So now we got a little bit of a network on the go. Give it a little bit of time. This group is humming. This community has got their systems worked out, and it's really working really well. And they say, you know what, let's get ahead of this. Let's not just take it one step at a time. Let's get out in front of this. If we had a restaurant in town that was linked within this network, that would be awesome, because we could bring in tourists and share what we're doing. We could, even locals in town, we could share what we're doing. We could, this could be a great promotional platform for what we're doing and bring more and more people into this network. So how do we get a restaurant? Share Shack, you get into used appliances and start doing renos. So that will increase your business, because these would be perfectly viable departments or departments out in the world. And that will eventually reduce the cost to the restaurant when we get there. Woodworking, you do something like this. Fabric, you get into that. And gardening network, you get into hydroponics, so we can have fresh food all the way around. Perfect. Now that we had this idea of the restaurant, these existing businesses and network have started these extra departments, which again, they're perfectly viable on their own. Now we can start this restaurant with extremely reduced costs. And then of course, there's probably going to be other networks and connections along the way that might be unforeseeable at the moment. So this is how it might unfold in a community. Oh, and then continue on. So what this does is it turns the concept of too big to fail into no business too small. Because every business, once you have your systems worked out, every business is contributing to the larger picture. And if one of these businesses does end up tanking for whatever reason, illness or whatever, we have a network now that can take up the slack. It doesn't completely come crashing down. This is total conjecture, might be the right word, I'm not quite sure, but I'm just guessing that the first phase businesses might take a couple of years to work out their systems, be a solid business on their own, and then start networking. Second phase businesses, such as at the level of the Share Shack Repair Layer, that might go on for the next 3 to 5 years. Then after 5 years, we might be at a point where this restaurant opens up. So that's totally intuitive guess. There's no data on this, but this is just kind of giving a bit of context. It can unfold into like outside of the community. So you have two people who start a woodworking business. Those people share the business information so that other groups of people in different communities can start their own businesses. Someone in this town starts up a fabric business, again, shares the business information with people in other towns. The order is off, so that other businesses, so people in other towns can start up their own businesses and continue on and on and on. And not that every town needs to have every one of these businesses. They pick and choose what businesses work for their community. So a couple of features of these businesses: they're all practicing Aikido economics. They might operate the dealer structure, so that they can benefit from leveraging parent companies. We'll look at that right now. The parent company is something that can manage a sharing platform and create consistency across throughout all the businesses. Another style of business that might be relatable is the franchise. The franchise doesn't actually fit with this, the dealer structure might, but it's the same concept, where if you have a Starbucks, or actually maybe a better example is the auto dealership, where GM they have a company, right? And there's consistency, their sales and their fonts and all their advertising is consistent in every location, but the individual businesses are owned by local people. So that's the style of model that could be adopted. And so what happens is we start connecting these businesses community to community, and continue on and on and on. So among communities, we start getting connection, not just within communities. These groups of businesses are coordinated efforts. Eventually, they get registered as a financial management, community management organization. And it's quite possible that the community foundation would be the actual registration, but we have that detail to work out. So as features of these coordinated efforts, they have an elected board of directors that have the ability to rotate. They manage collective finances among these businesses within the town. They have a mandate to serve the participating community, and they have a mandate to utilize the bridge. And if they're legally bound to utilizing the bridge, then they continue access to that shared business information. That way other communities know that we're all on the same page. So, a bit of a recap: we had 2 people start a business and shared the information. Then we had a bunch of businesses got together and they created a community, and then we'll look at what happens when we share the community information. So in this Greensboro, there's someone who owns Ironheads Metalworks, and they say, you know what, I really dig what's going on here. I'm into this stuff. Redtown, if you send me 150 hours a week of labor, I could reduce my costs to so much. I'll give you $500 worth of metal every week. Perfect. Redtown is up $500. Greentown is up, like, I don't know what the math would be on that, but 150 hours worth of labor. Both towns win. They start connecting. Light Blue Town over there says, that's an awesome model. We got an old warehouse here and we got a bunch of retired metalworking and administrative people. Let's do the same thing to an expanded level and start involving more communities. Awesome. Let's do the same for a different business. Maybe we can start refitting houses with some permaculture practices, and then these groups get together and replicate that because the business information is shared. And then eventually we can get to the point where we got 15 retired power plant executives and say we could totally power all of these towns. You send us people, we'll reduce your electrical costs by way more than the people power that you send us. Awesome. So now we've linked businesses, we've linked communities, we've linked people, we've linked businesses, we've started linking communities. We can use digital platforms such as Holochain and open source. And one point that I want to make at this point is these layer upon layer upon layer of connections will be very difficult for some people to understand. So it will take a certain level of evolved consciousness to grasp this three-dimensional way of operating. Now we'll see how this links outside of nations. So this is fine if we do it within a town, do it within a county or within a country, but how do we get this how do we transcend national borders? Because if we just go this far, all we're doing is reorganizing national borders, and we don't want to do that. We want to transcend them. So 2 people start a business, share the information, multiple communities do the same. That link, parent company links across borders. So Cindy mentioned off the top that we have Canadian woodworking businesses and we're looking into US woodworking businesses. There's consistency among them, so they're transcending borders. We do it for this business, we got transcending borders. We got 50 different countries with a consistent business model. We're crossing borders. Bring all that stuff together. Now at the business level, we have transcended borders. At the community level, so at the community level, we do the same. With the Ironheads and the power plant, we can cross borders at the community level. But now we take that exact same philosophy to something like environmental movements. And Greenpeace, I think of as a great example. What if Greenpeace, and I know they do this to a certain extent, but had a chapter in every one of these communities? So there's a consistent Greenpeace that goes across, or whatever this organization is, and we are crossing borders with this. It's a common movement, or it's a common organization, but they have chapters in every town, so they're incentivized to work together. We could apply this to technology, we could apply it to well-being, and to even justice. So what happens is when you wrap all of this stuff together, we have transcended all borders, and that is the resource-based economy. So it's the same network of systems. Starts with 2 people starting a business, grow, split, cross borders, etc. Apply it to larger and larger systems, and we simply end up at the resource-based economy, or at the very least. But I mean, maybe it's not the resource-based economy, but an evolved society. So.
Hey, thanks for watching. If any of this has piqued your interest and you find your intuition nudging you to learn more, visit activateus.org. We offer books, more video modules like this one, and even training programs for a deeper understanding of the bridge. If you'd like to support our work, feel free to browse our store, where you'll find a range of items with bridge branding and other thought-provoking and empowering designs. You can also support us through Buy Me a Coffee, donate monthly through Patreon, or contribute a larger amount to help kickstart one of our next projects. More than anything though, humanity needs more people and communities putting the bridge into action. So, if you find this intriguing and feel called to look into implementing the bridge in your area, definitely give us a shout. We have a support network in place and plenty of resources to help you begin. Society's evolution won't wait. It's happening now whether any of us are ready for it or not. The only question is, who will be participating and who will be sitting on the sidelines?